Today's guest is going to give us a bit of insight into driving. Only 10% of drivers are confident they know all road signs, and theory test pass rates fall to lowest levels on record. So it's an interesting one, that's for sure. So Camilla Benitz, Managing Director of a driving school, and Keanan Lloyd-Adams, young driver and road safety influencer, going to give us a bit of an insight into this research. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Great to be here.
So can you tell us a bit about this, the research about the road signs? I must admit, I'd like to think I know it all, but it's not always easy. I'm sure our listeners agree, really. But yeah, can you give a bit of insight on what the research suggests?
Yeah, absolutely. So the AA conducted this research because we saw a real drop in the pass rate of the theory test, and it dropped down to a record low of 44%. We then went out to experienced drivers, and the research shows that only 18% of seasoned drivers are very confident they would pass the theory test if they were to take it today, which just shows a worrying lack of confidence and knowledge on something that is so important and influences road safety.
No, absolutely. I can imagine. But why are pass rates for theory? What's the suggestion why pass rates are so low?
So I think there's a myth going around that it's common sense, that it's easy, a bit of a walk in the park to get through your theory test. However, when you dig into it, you could come up against 700 possible multiple choice questions, for example, and hazard perception as well. And quite a few of those questions can be really technical. So they can be things like, what's your stopping distance at 30 miles an hour? Or what's your stopping distance at 70 miles an hour? Or road signs that you are unlikely to come across in your sort of day-to-day driving as you're learning. So it's absolutely critical that people do prepare and then revise that as well. So that's one of the reasons why we think that pass rate is low right now.
That's interesting. And what are some of the simple mistakes? Not that people are probably going to admit it, but what are the general mistakes that people? Are there any sort of common mistakes that people make?
Yeah, I'd take that one. I think one of the biggest ones is to underestimate the seriousness of this test. I think young people who are taking the theory test need to sort of realise, I like to give this perception switch up. The tests you've been taking up to that point at 17 years old have been for maths, for science, for English. If you fail those tests, no one's going to get hurt. We're safe, we're sound. The theory test is a significant jump of responsibility. It's not only your life in your hands for the theory that you're learning, it's also the other people on the road, the other drivers. And not only that, your passengers, their passengers, you've got families on school runs, you're taking your best friends to a trip to wherever you'd like to go. It's a significant jump into adulthood, I'd like to say, and that's why you need to take it seriously. And if you do that and you prepare for it, it could be a nice challenge for you that you can pass first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's sort of an interesting take on things. I mean, let's sort of look at people today. How many drivers? I know it's hard to sort of quantify how many, but just a guesstimate, really. How many drivers do you think would pass the theory test if they took it today?
So the research showed that it was only 18%, so about 1 in 5 UK drivers were confident they would pass. So that's a pretty low pass rate. So I think there is increasingly that recognition that it is tough, but also people seeing those signs, as 90% of people seeing signs that they come across that they just don't understand, and that's with experienced drivers. So people are increasingly aware of those knowledge gaps, and I think now get aware of it and then do something about it to brush up your knowledge.
Absolutely, and I'm definitely in the 18%. I'm very confident I would pass the theory test. Then again, I'm not so sure, but yeah, like you said, I think that one thing to take in consideration, it's changed, and how has it changed over the years since it's first introduced?
So there have been a number of changes. Back in 2007, there were additional multiple choice questions were added along with a case study. So instead of 35 questions, it was bumped up to 50. And then in 2012, the DVSA, they stopped publishing the answers to the questions. So you couldn't just learn them off by heart and then go and take the test. So now when you're taking the test, you really need to understand the full breadth of the highway code, along with your hazard perception and so on. So arguably there's a greater breadth of things to know. You're going to be tested that little bit more thoroughly, which, given the importance of the test, absolutely the right thing to do. But it does mean that learners are going to have to put a little bit more preparation work in to get that pass.
Absolutely. And I was going to sort of ask what people can do to boost their chances, but I think the thing is too, like the word test itself for some people, it might not just be. It's just like, you know, the sort of like what it holds for some people. Obviously, so like driving is important, and so, you know, obviously the word test itself can be daunting. But just as a general rule, what do you think people can do other than sort of study to boost their chances of theory test success?
I would say that one. I think preparation is the big word of the day, is to prep for it. If you take it seriously enough, understand, as I said before, the seriousness of it, the consequence of it, the butterfly effect of it. You could be an independent adult after these tests. You could take it first time. You could drive wherever you want, go wherever you want. If you prepare for it, knowing that, it should motivate you to understand the severity of it, to take it seriously, and it should really help you. And one way to prepare for it, if you use the AA Theory Test app, it has all of the questions, over 700 questions, all in the palm of your hand. It is unbelievable. You have all the flashcards. Imagine if you had to make flashcards like we did back when. 700 of them, you can have them all in your phone, just a couple of megabytes, just like that. And something that has changed as well from when I took my test in 2016, so already big changes. The Theory Test app has the hazard perception videos as well as in the app. I had to go into that blind in 2016. I had no clue what to expect. I knew I had to click when there was a hazard, but you know, if you never practice that, when am I clicking? Am I just going to keep clicking? You lose points if you do that. And not only does the Theory Test app have that on hand, it also gives you reasons why. It gives you the wisdom. Why was that a hazard? Why you were correct or why you were incorrect in that time. So yes, if you prepare for it, use that app, all the flashcards. It's a major boost. Could not recommend it enough.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. And I mean, just in the research as well, there seems to be a variation in theory test pass rate at different centres. I mean, what could that be? I mean, why do you think that's the case? There is a variation in pass rates at different centres.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? So it goes everything from a 24% pass rate in Hornsey to Aviemore, where they are knocking it out of the park. They've got a 74% pass rate. I think the key thing to know is that the theory test is going to be the same in any test site that you take it. And I think what this data represents is that the candidates turning up where there were these higher pass rates were better prepared, but also potentially quite a few of these sites are a bit smaller, and you know, you are doing an exam under timed conditions, and that is quite stressful with your countdown clock, and also if you've had a bit of a stressful time getting to the test centre, all of that can sort of affect how you go into that test. You might be trying to rush it too much rather than just sort of taking your time. So between how prepared the candidates are and just the nature of that sort of test centre, the environment, I think can make that real difference.
Absolutely, and if anyone sort of listening wants more information on the research or anything else for that matter, like the app or anything like that, would you want to signpost on where to go, please?
Absolutely. So it's on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. It's the AA Theory Test app. It's only $4.99. As I said, I could not recommend it enough. Everyone who's learning to drive today, 16, 17, 18, you'll always have your phone on you no matter what. You're probably not driving at this point if you've not passed your theory. It'd be strange if you were. You're taking the bus, you're taking the train. It's in those moments, those free time you have, instead of scrolling on social media, get the app out. It's like a game. You get trophies if you get questions right. It really motivates you. It's fun. I'm literally using it now, enjoying it, testing myself as a little brush up. And it'll definitely be the difference between passing first time or potentially not.
No, absolutely. It sounds really good. I might even check it out myself for sure. But I really want to thank you guys for your time. It's been a really interesting and informative interview. I'm sure our listeners have found it interesting and informative as well. So thanks again and have a fantastic day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.